All right, guys. So we are moving on today, section 1.3, boys. All right, this section we are going to have two variables, so an x and a y, and we are going to be solving them for y. Okay? We're going to have both equations and an equality since we've been working with both. Okay, so we're going to kind of work with both simultaneously and solving things for y. So why do we need to write equations with y by itself? What do you guys think? Okay, so we're going to find the value of y. Y equals mx plus b. Most students can throw that out at me and they're like, what's it mean? Do you guys know what? It's slope-intercept form. That's what we use when we're graphing. Okay, the y equals mx plus b. But it is your first step in learning to solve for a particular variable. The next section is called literal equations, where I give you like different formulas, you know, like you have area formulas and all kinds of things, and we solve for different variables in them, because it does make things a lot easier. So this is kind of our first step into solving for a certain variable. Then after this, we will work on, you know, multiple different variables that we're going to solve for. Solving for a particular variable helps us to use an equation more efficiently. Okay, so we want to be as efficient as possible. Y equals mx plus b. That is your slope-intercept form. We will get into that next chapter. We do a lot of graphing in that one. So if it's in this form, it's really easy to graph. Makes graphing much easier in that form. We will practice this skill now, so we've got it down when we get to graphing in the next chapter, and because it's just plain fun too. Yeah, right? Oh, come on, really? Yeah.
Hey, some people might go to college for this.
I can guarantee you at least 3 of us will go to college.
Hey guys, even if you never use this math, okay, and there's a chance some of you probably never will. Guys, stop speaking. So even if you never use this, are you still learning problem-solving abilities? Yeah. Do any of you run for exercise? Some of you run, right? I know a lot of you guys in your labs, you condition and things like that. Are you ever going to be a marathon runner? No. So why do you run?
Okay, that's different.
No, it's not. Why do you run? Why do you run?
Why do I practice this?
Okay, so it helps you, right? It helps your body, right? Same thing, guys, when you learn different levels of math, even if you truly never use, and again, there's a lot of very applicable ways to use the math, okay? But a lot of you, let's be honest, probably never will. But you are still teaching your brain problem-solving abilities. It's the same reason you run, even though you're never going to be a marathon runner, because it conditions your body. This conditions your brain, okay? In your life, you solve problems all the time. You may not even realize it. You are multitasking problem-solving all day long, okay? Conditioning does suck, but it does help, okay? So honestly, that is the answer I always give students, like, when am I ever going to need this? And I can show you many different ways in the real world that you use it. But truly, a lot of you never will use these skills. In my real life, okay, just being honest, in my real life, the math I use the most is my geometry and trigonometry skills, right? My husband and I build things a lot. You know, I help my dad with different things, and he often will ask me for help, like, can you please calculate, you know, whatever he's doing? And I use geometry and trigonometry more than anything else, okay? Now, my algebra skills help me understand more of that math a little better, and helps me to solve those things in geometry, in trig, that help me to solve, like when we made a fireplace that fit in the corner of our living room. We needed to know what size to cut the boards, you know, so it fit perfectly in there. Like I could measure across, I want it from here to here on this wall and this wall, so I could calculate, you know, how far it was across the hypotenuse, but then I had to like calculate each side, so I knew how big to make those, okay? Using my algebra skills allowed me to solve the equations to help figure that out, okay? Does that make sense, Harley? Good. Iron Man was on last night when I went to bed. I watched part of that too. All right, so how do you leave a final answer? Okay, because I know quite often students are like, am I done? Like you don't even know when to stop, right? Like how do you know when you're done? So y should be completely isolated, all by itself. So y equals everything else, okay? Y is totally by itself. All fractions should be simplified, and you will have quite a few fractions, and that's okay. And then equations and inequalities should be in the slope-intercept form, where it's your mx, so whatever number you have with x, should be before just the plain number. Okay, it's your x term, and then whatever plain number you got at the end. All right, so getting some practice. 9x plus 3y equals 6. So we are trying to get y by itself. So what do I move first? The 9x. Dividing should be the last thing you do. So we subtract 9x. So 3y equals. Are those like terms that I can put them together? No. One has an x and one doesn't. Which one should I write first? The variable one should always go first, right? The mx plus b. So I want the x part, negative 9x, and then that's minus 6. So get in the habit of always putting the x term first. It's the equal sign and then whatever that x term is. And then to get y by itself, divide by 3. Yeah. And if I divide this by 3, what do I divide by 3 over there? Yeah, both, everything, right? Divide by 3, divide by 3. So y equals, good, that makes negative 3x minus 2. Good. So we have y completely by itself. I'm in the right form, right? The x term and then my plain number. And then I don't have any fractions left to simplify, right? We simplified the 9 and 3 and the 6 and 3. You guys remember doing this at some point in your life? Good. Good. So today should be a pretty easy day for you. Yep. Geometry and algebra, they go hand in hand. Really? You can't do geometry without algebra. You can't do a lot of geometry without the algebra part of it. I will say that's usually true. Usually you're an algebra-brained or a geometry-brained person. Like me, I'm definitely more an algebra-brained person, but I use my geometry more than anything else. Do the best you can. All right, guys, so number 2. What do we move first here? Good. Subtract the 12x. All right, guys. Thank you. Negative 12x, and that's plus 3, because that is a positive 3. Just be careful that you don't try to put like those terms together and give me negative 9x, okay? If they're not both x's, you can't put them together. Good. Divide by negative 4. Now be very careful with your signs when you're dividing by that negative. Good. So the 2 negatives here made that a positive 3. Now, a plus on top and a negative on bottom, does it really matter? No, that's just going to be a minus, and that's 3/4. Yeah.
You can also write that by adding plus and negative.
You can. Technically, that's not wrong, but the double signs a lot of times get very confusing. So I would try to just use one. Yeah, I mean, not technically, it's not wrong. Ooh. Fractions. If you see fractions right from the start, what should we do? Yeah, let's get rid of those things. Let's multiply the whole thing by 3. So 3 divided by 3 times 8. So I have 8x. 3 divided by 3 times 2. 3 times 12. Good, fraction's gone. So much easier to work with. Good, we'll subtract the 8x. So 2y equals, how would you write that? Good. And then get y by itself. And we divide everything by 2. So, good. So today shouldn't be too bad of a day, right?
It'll probably be hard.
All right, what if I have decimals from the start? Yeah, do the 100 thing. So is this one 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000? What's this one? 100, because this one goes out 2 spots, so we have to do 100. So doing 100 is the same thing as multiplying or moving that decimal 2 spots. So it's what? 120y plus 300x negative 780x 636. If you guys are comfortable clearing fractions and clearing decimals, it makes things so much easier as the semester goes on. Good. All right, from here, again, focusing on, I'm trying to get y by itself. Minus the 300x. Does it have a like term over here? Yeah, I actually have a like term. So I'm going to go ahead and write it underneath whatever the like term is. So 120y equals, good, negative 1080x minus 636. All right, and then divide by 120. So y equals, now here's where we want to just really focus on simplifying. So in my calculator, I know that's, or is that going to divide nicely? Oh, that one actually does. Okay, so that's going to give me negative 9x. Now this one does not divide nicely. So how should you type that in? Should I hit 636 divided by 120, or should I type it in as a fraction? Type it in as a, so type it in as a fraction and simplify it. So I would write that as 53 tenths. Five and 3 tenths is the same thing. Yep. The graphing calculators by default turns them into improper. The other calculators will turn them into mixed numbers. Can they flip them back and forth between the two versions though? Yeah, if you just hit that second ABC on your regular ones and hit enter, it'll flip it back to this one. On this one, a decimal wouldn't bother me on this one. Because it actually is a nice decimal, right? The ones that get those decimals that fill your screen, those are the ones I don't want as a decimal. Okay? Yeah.
So what if you don't need to move the numbers over at all? Where can you do
In this problem, I wouldn't mind if you didn't clear them. I would just say though, in the directions on the test, because this test I am testing you on, do you know how to clear decimals and clear fractions? So if the directions say clear the decimals and solve, or clear the fractions and then solve, then you will have to. Okay, it just depends on what the directions say. Because this chapter, part of your skill is, do you know how to do that? All right, number 5. Now this one, notice it's not an equal sign, but we have an inequality. Okay, so do I treat them any different? What's the only special rule the inequalities get? Good. Multiply or divide by negative, it switches, right? It's the only difference. Okay? Good. Add your x. What? Good. 3y is less than x plus 11. Divide by 3. Do I need to flip the inequality? Nope, sure don't. If I divide by negative, then it would flip. Otherwise, it's y is less than, what does x over 3 become? Good, that's 1/3 x. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that? So that's 1/3 x. Plus, can I leave it 11 over 3? Yeah. If you want to switch that to a mixed number, that's fine. It's not wrong. But you don't have to. It doesn't simplify, so I can leave it just as 11/3. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, otherwise you do them just like you do equations. All right, number 6. All right, we have stuff to move away from the y. Good, subtract that 7x. And again, it has a like term over there, so I will put it underneath that like term. So negative 4y greater than or equal, good, 2x minus 8. Flip the sign? Yes, this time that sign right there is going to flip to a less than or equal to, right? Because I divided by a negative. Just 1/2? Negative 1/2 x. Good. Make sure you simplify. And then plus 2. Doing okay? Just kind of putting together some of the skills we've been working on, kind of putting it all together here for you. Why don't you guys try 7 on your own? All right, guys. So first thing, getting the y part by itself, we'll subtract the 8x. Are those like terms? No, they're not. So put the x part first. So negative 8x minus 18. And then divide by 3. Do we need to flip the sign? Nope, I divided by a positive, so we don't flip. That does not divide nicely. I'm just going to leave it negative 8/3 x, and then that gives me negative 6. I'd probably take a point off only because I've asked you to write it in the right form. Okay. The big thing is I'm trying to help train you now, so when we get in the next chapter, it becomes a little more natural to you, makes it a lot easier for you. The other thing I noticed a couple of you guys, your negative 8/3 x, some of you are writing that as negative 8x over 3, like that, where you're putting the x on top. Technically, not wrong. However, it's going to confuse you in the next chapter. Okay? So if you can, try to get used to putting that x kind of off to the side next to that fraction, if you can. All right, number 8. What do we do? Good. Subtract 10x. Are those like terms? Nope. So negative 5y is greater than negative 10x plus 5. Good. Try to keep in mind that x part I want to be listed first. Harley. Divide by negative 5. And remember, we divide everything. Do I need to worry about flipping my sign? Yes. That sign definitely flips. And what am I left with? 2x minus 1. All right, positive 5 divided by negative 5. Ooh, number 9. Isn't that pretty? You're like, wow, that just went from not so bad to that's kind of terrible. Let's get rid of the fraction. So I have to multiply by what? 2. What do I multiply by 2? Everything but the parentheses. Good. So we're going to have 2 times negative 2. Ignore the parentheses. That just comes down, right? Y plus 5x greater than or equal. All right, so that's 2 divided by 2 times 1. It's 1, so I don't really have to write it. So I have 3y minus 2. Good, and then plus 8. Biggest mistake students make is they just forget to multiply everything. So remember what the analogy was I gave you? Technically, we had a 1 in front of it, but then multiplying by 1, I don't really change anything. So I was just being a lazy mathematician and not writing it. All right, what should I do next? I would distribute. Yep, so we've got negative 4y minus 20x greater than or equal. Can I do anything on that side? Yeah, I'm going to put those like terms together, which will give me 3y plus 6, negative 2 plus 8 plus 6. All right, what do I do now? Yeah, well, I could do the sum with the 4y, or I could minus the 3y. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3y. Why would I do that as opposed to moving the negative? Because where do we usually like the y to be? Yeah, it could be on the other side. It's not wrong, but I think we do a lot better with the y's, especially with graphing, if we move them to the left. So I'm going to subtract the 3y. I want to go ahead and get those together. So it gives me negative 7y minus 20x greater than or equal to 6. Then what? Add the 20. There you go. So add 20x. Are those like terms? Nope. So negative 7y greater than or equal to 20x plus 6. Just 7? Negative 7. Do I need to worry about the sign? Yes. That sign will flip to a less than or equal to. Y less than or equal to just 20 over 7? Negative 20 over 7 x minus 6 over 7. Good. Again, notice on that, it was 20 over negative 7, but I wrote it as negative 20 over 7. Does not matter if it's top, bottom, and front. It's just one negative, doesn't matter where I put it. Most calculators prefer it on the top, not the bottom. Okay? Good. Yeah, I would start by multiplying by 100 because of that one went 2 spots. What do I multiply by 100? Everything but the parentheses. So 100 times 0.2, good, that would be 20. 3x minus y does not get multiplied. That becomes 400. Good, that is 3. Do not multiply the parenthesis. Minus 100. Okay, then what? Harley, you working through any of these with me? So we get 60x minus 20y plus 400 less than 3x plus 3y minus 100. Okay, do me a favor, really watch where that inequality is. Where's your kind of divider of one side and the other side? Just be careful of that. Do you have any like terms on either side to clean up? No, not on each side. Good. First thing, let's move the y's because we know we want y over here by itself. So we'll subtract 3y. So that's going to give me negative 23y. I have plus 60x plus 400 is less than 3x minus 100. Good. Yeah, I would minus the 60x. You can do that. Line that up with a like term over there. So negative 23y plus 400 is less than negative 57x minus 100. Keeping in mind, my goal is to get y by itself. Good. Subtract the 400 away.
Wait, so did you just automatically take away the 66?
Ye- Yes, because remember, I'm trying to get y by itself, so we're just trying to slowly move all the pieces away from it. Yeah, guys, if I ever go too fast, just tell me, okay? I'll happily slow down for you. Are we okay? Anybody else questions to why or how I did what I did? Okay. So we're at negative 23y is less than negative 57x minus 500. Okay, divide by negative 23. Good. Since I'm dividing by a negative, I have to flip that sign. Oh, this just gets prettier and prettier, doesn't it? So that less than will flip to a greater than. What happens to this? It's positive, yeah. 57 over 23, that doesn't simplify at all. And the negative 500 over negative 23. Doesn't simplify, but turns to a positive. Yeah, two negatives make a positive. And I can just leave it 500 over 23. It's fine. Oh, that's pretty. No, not really, but it's okay. How are we feeling so far?
I'm feeling that.
I did it